Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing this July the 9th, 2025 nightly cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, gold and silver bullion update. And we had a good video at the noon update for the first half or 3/4 of it because it is Commodity Mondays on the gold and silver bullion market in the mining sectors and the gains that have been made and the future gains that are going to change a generation of wealth. As that once in the generational bull market continues, you should go check that video out. If we look at the Bitcoin price, it is pumped up extremely high yesterday and today, getting up close to the all-time high within, I believe, $1,000 of it, and getting close to that target on the upper end that we had. And we'll briefly take a look at this before we look at some interesting information, education in the XRP. You can see there's the all-time high. There's our target of 118,000 that we put on there when the price started to pump as our target from when it got up to this point right in here. We went from down at the targeted move. When we got to this point, we had all this support and resistance right here, right? From the last double top. And then we came down, and once we got to this as a resistance point, we said if this breaks this, your target would be from here to here, right? And that's a 30% move to the targeted move. And that gets you to the $118,573. And that's how we got that targeted move. And now it's trying to do that right now. And for that to do it, like we talked about on Friday, if it was going to do it on the weekend after it dumped and then was temporarily trying to make a bottom with this, would turn into a V-shaped recovery or breaking out of a V-shaped recovery. But Friday, it was down at the bottom of this. We were showing you it would have to come straight up vertically almost. And what it would do to come up to that target, if it did it over the weekend, it would have hit it right on the upper resistance. But that's still about what it's going to try to do, come up into this upper resistance if it keeps shooting up. So this is something we have to watch. Or it's just going to be a second double top. So there's your all-time high. Then you have the consolidation. Then you come run back into it and then get that rejection. And then you have a big fall off. So this is very, very interesting. Bitcoin's trying to break a new all-time high and trying to go up to the 118,573 target. And the reason this is very interesting is we're approaching mid-June now. And XRP specifically, and that's what this video is going to be on, and this is part of the new philosophy of the truth, trust, education, and that bit of new knowledge. And if you did know it, well, it's being reinforced and you're seeing it again as a refresher, but giving you hints at the beginning of every video, valuable information that you can use to make a probability-based trade and strategically increase your wealth in your investing portfolio. As you know, we here, what I do is I have multiple investing via 401k investing that is routinely comes out of my check weekly. We have mining stocks, we have crypto, we have real estate, right? The gold and silver bullion. We buy a little bit of everything to be well-rounded with our portfolio, and that's your best way to become everyday retail millionaires, right? The average man and woman working and living on this planet by simple steps of easy investing over a long period of time in multiple different things, right? And this information here that we're going to show you as one of those assets is Bitcoin, but another one of those assets is the XRP, and it's a very popular one with the XRP and a very loyal audience. And you can see we're bouncing successfully off that neckline support, and you can see we're getting above the moving averages now, and that's what we talked about in the noon update. And this is going to, with the Bitcoin price threatening an all-time high, bouncing successfully with the mini double bottom off the 200-day moving average in the 209, 208 neckline support. Now that you're above the 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average, you have a free road, a free run now to try to come back up here to the 255 and threaten that and try to punch it out this time and then go up to that 302 target. So we're going to get into that. But we're going to talk about some historical patterns and historical charts for XRP in the summertime. And it has a very distinct summertime rhythm and analogs, right? And prior data can be used to help you put into your probability to see if something from the past is going to play out again. And in June, historic returns. And it's been a tale of 2 months. A tale of 2 months in the summer, a tale of totally different results. June historically has been very bearish for the XRP price. Data compiled on the XRP monthly returns. Not just the highest, the lowest, or the lowest to highest return or decline, but the month from start to finish. What was the total return if you bought it on day one and sold it on the last day? 2017, an anomaly. It was up 7.78%. 2018, it was down 23.93%. 2019, it was down 8.14%. 2020, the COVID, an anomaly up year, 16.77%. 2021, 32% down. 2022, 21% down. 2023, 8.5% down. 2024, almost 8 flat down. Average June return over the past 11 years, negative 8.49, indicating a typical downturn for the XRP. So in a month that is normally down, in June, other than 2 months, that one of them was 16% up and the other one was 7% up. The rest, all of the other ones were down from 2017 to present. And this year currently, let's see what the XRP was doing on June 1st. Let's get that out of there. Where was the old XRP on June 1st? It might be up after this rally, depending on where June 1st fell. Oh, yeah, it's definitely up. June 1st was down right here. So right now, we're having an anomaly here. We're up right now. June 1st, it's up 9%. So it's above the mean right now, right? And if this breaks out, this will be the greatest. This is on track right now and on pace to start June here for XRP to have the greatest return for June since 2017 with the records that I have that go back to, right? So this is something that could be historic here. If this continues, this is a standard deviations, multiple standard deviations above its historical normal. And this is something that we have to take seriously now as we're diverging and going on one of the rare paths. And we're going to see if this plays out the rest of the month. It's still early June, but we're getting closer to mid-June. But what could still happen is you pump. And then all of a sudden, mid-late June, there's a big overall market collapse, and you end up down here. And even though inter-month you had, say, a 15 or 20% return, by the end of the month, it's actually below from where you started. But that's very interesting to note at the beginning of the month. Right now, you're diverging from the historical norm. So we're going to note that to see if we don't play back closer to the historical means for the June XRP price, right? June is historically weak. Most June, 6 out of 8 show negative returns. Not without exception, significant gains in 17 in the COVID 2020. Average drop, 8.5%, right? So that's very interesting. But now let's look at July. It's the complete opposite, right? You have one analog to being bullish is June, but an anti-log would be June because for bullishness because it's extremely bearish. But an anti-log for bullishness would be July, right? The opposite side. XRP has historically shown a consistent July upswing over the past 5 years. July, the COVID 2020, 48.14%. And this one has the highest return for the whole month, but doesn't have the highest inter-month return, and I'll explain as we move on. July 2021, 6.91% to the upside. July 2022, 14.6%. And July 2022 and July 2023 were during the 2-year bear markets, right? And they were still up. And July 2023 was actually the highest 1-month pump, which was the Judge Torres manipulated, facilitated, and orchestrated news that you actually had about a 100% intraday, 1-day pump, right? And it ended up selling 100% of that pump back in throughout the month. But that's why it only ended with a 47% return because it was selling off the rest of the month because that happened just after the 4th of July holiday, I think the following week. And then by August, it gave back and was actually 10 or 15 or 20% below from the pump. And then we had to wait another 6 or 8 months until the spring of 2024 before we pumped again. But then you can see last July, 31.2%. So 5 straight years of not just returns, but very, very strong returns via bull market, strong returns, or bear market, strong returns. Because 2020 was a bull market, it was up 48.1%. 2023 was a bear market on the second year of a multi-year bear market, but it was up 47.6%. And that was actually the second highest return in the last 5 Julys. So was July 2025 going to be another strong July with its average return in July is very, very strong? Or is this going to be an outliner the other way where we actually have a negative July? But it's very interesting to see that, to understand what the past has done, because it can aid you and help you and give you just additional information that you wouldn't be seeing otherwise. But adding to that to your knowledge can only aid and help you in making a profitable trade or a profitable investment, right? But you can see we did bounce off that neckline support, and that's what we were talking about earlier this morning. And now there is nothing here in the way. See how quick it dumped, how quick it pumps, how quick it dumps through this area, because there's not a lot of trading area, how quick it dumped before it hit that support. So if this continues to pump and doesn't just roll over on itself, your next target here in the short term now is turned bullish up to this 255. This is going to be very interesting to watch, and we're going to continue to watch this week, as this is a strong move with the Bitcoin, but it's got to stay above these moving averages here. This is the critical, this is your tell. If it's above the 50 and the 100 day in the daily that are running just right next to each other, you can go to 255. If you're below it, you're bearish. That's your indicator for you, the retail trader, to watch the next several days to see where the XRP price is going. Because if the Bitcoin price continues to go, and actually is going to go to 118 or 125,000, maybe the outliner of the XRP that says we should have a massive leg up to the upside now, maybe that upside track's going to be correct. And $12 is in play for XRP, but I thought that wouldn't be until you get to 2027 and beyond, maybe closer to 2030 for a $12. I thought late 2026 and 2027, we would get the $5 to $6 range, right? But I thought we had to have a correction in between then. But if the Bitcoin just going to continue this rally and not have a considerable pullback, this $5 to $7 target gets accelerated up and it would happen quicker, because the overall market's going to continue to pump. And XRP did, from its top, have a considerable pullback from its all-time high after its 8x run. It went from about the 336 to 340 on the wick low at $1.61. It did have a 52% pullback, right? Which is a very healthy pullback in the middle of a 8x run. The Bitcoin only went down 30%. So this is very interesting. This is something that we have to pay attention to see how this actually plays out. But these things are all in play, and that's why we have our outliner tracks on there that aid us and give us additional information, and that's how we try to do things, right? And have long-term investments and just try to strategically buy and accumulate more into our portfolio, right? If we look at the XLM price, is very interesting. The XLM price is sitting there in the similar consolidation, because XLM went up about 8x2 from its low, but just like XRP, it had an even bigger correction from high to low, from about the 63 cents to the 20 cents. It went down 68, 69%. So that is a more than solidified correction and a pullback, to where if you didn't want to pull back anymore, you really wouldn't have to, because you did go down 63%. And you can see two of the tracks right there actually show that. They both showed it coming down to this line right here. You can see it. We'll zoom in. See both of those in the background. Both showed the price coming down. They're actually 3 of the 4 did. The outliner to the bottom brought it below the 14 cents. The outliner to the top, actually all 4 of them did, because the outliner to the top actually did come down here right about now, but it shoots straight up. So this is going to be very interesting to see if maybe the median road, and this maybe wasn't the bottom here in XLM, the same thing with XRP. We're going to continue to watch this and the overall trends in the market with the news to see if anything existential swings it either way that you couldn't see or predict, because it's an outside source. existential. But this is very interesting to see where we're at right now. We're going to continue to watch this. And again, just like the XLRP, the critical area here is if all these moving averages are together. XRP's got the 200-day substantially below the 50 and the 100, but here they're all together. So if you're below these moving averages where you are now, you're trending bearish. But if you can get back above these, just like XRP just did, if you can get back above it, the first is the 100 or the 200-day and the 50-day are essentially on top of each other. You got to get above that and then punch through the wall that is the 28 and a third cents, otherwise known as the 100-day moving average. You get on top of that, there's nothing in the way to get you back up to your regional 33 cents, right? And then you could even pump even higher and try to go make an elusive run at that 43 cents. So this is very interesting. You're holding still again another time, about the 9th time on this 25 cents, and that's a critical support level. So we're going to continue to follow this for you and break down the breaking news and anything that we think might affect the state of the market. One of our most beloved coins that we've been waiting on to pump that has not pumped, that's been very, very depressing, but we think it's because we're in this elongated, much longer pattern where we've had the big pump after the big 99% dump bear market, debilitating, crippling, threatening to kill the coin killer type of bear market, where this coin came out, at least on this chart, in August of 21 and then proceeded to go down over the next couple of years until July of 2024, proceeded to go down 98.69%, right? But then you can see we had some life come back into the market, just like life came back across the crypto sphere, which really signaled the snapping of the bear market last year, late October, fall of 2023. You started to have across the board a similar type pump here in the crypto sphere. That was your signs of life, and that was actually after it became the recent past and not the present as it was happening, was the end of the bear market right here on the monthly flip from October of 2023 was your first green candle, and that was actually the flip to the bullishness, and then you had the consolidation, and then you had the accumulation of the first run-up in this end of 2023 through the late spring of 2024, where you actually peaked in this coin in March, mid-March, and then you came down, right? But you see you hit your upper resistance. Then you hit your lower support with a long consolidation through most of the summer, in the fall, until Donald Trump and the night of the U.S. election, and then there was your second pump. And look at what you hit. Upper resistance just below with the wick came up to 0.01698, but this wick was just below at 0.01467. And then notice the candle bodies just below. So you have almost a horizontal but slightly descending upper resistance and a slightly uptrending but almost horizontal lower support. You can see you hit it here in January of 24, then the summer and fall of 24, and then again now, most recently from the December sell-off, where you hit it again here in March of 2025. So I think this is your overall pattern you're in, and this could be the longer pattern that you need after the market woke up here. And this is what I'm actually thinking here for the AMP. The market woke up here, because I've been very bullish on AMP since we started waking up. We bought this down here, made some money, got back in it down in here, and got back in more down here, because we do think we're going way up there. But this might be actually what we need to get up there. We couldn't just go straight there. We had to consolidate. We had to build buyers. We had to build momentum. We had to build a base to get that explosion up there. And that might be with this consolidation and essentially a horizontal channel, which is a bullish consolidation on the pump. It's kind of like your flag right here. This is your flag pole. This would be your flag. And then your targeted move would be from the start of the move to the first rejection point, and that would actually be to the point of a breakout, get you all the way up here and actually get you on the top side of these targets of the 2 cents to 5 cents that you do know if you watch the videos from December and January and February, we were talking about these are our targets, but then it became obvious we had to try to figure out a bottom first before we could figure out when we were going to eventually get here. But maybe this is the pattern that we did need for AMP to actually get up there. So I'm very excited to see that and to follow this pattern, that maybe this is what it needed. See how you caught that flagpole right there, and that maybe that's what you needed to get up there. And maybe you just needed a longer consolidation, and maybe this track down here that was delaying it a couple of more months before the big breakout, maybe that had some validity to it. But that's not to say you can't have a pump from the bottom of this support up to the top of this upper resistance in a very short amount of time right now, right? And that's something that I think we have to watch to see, and that is quite possibly going to happen here in the short term, right? I'm very excited for AMP. This is very excited in the market. Watch the very informative gold video, because that's another market that's had 4 to 10x returns already in the mining sector. We're at all-time highs in the bullion. We're approaching a 30-year high in silver. I think we're going to be hitting 50 before you know it, and the silver bull market has just begun. Watch some videos, join the channel, subscribe, become members of Jabroni Killers to keep these videos coming out every day, at least once a day, to my growing audience with the movement of truth, trust, education, information, and knowledge. Peace and love to profitable trading. Jai.